We see parents, students, and even teachers rising up and protesting what is being taught in our schools from coast to coast. Much of the awareness has been due to the pandemic and kids being forced to learn online instead of in person. One of the few silver linings to the 2020 lockdowns is that parents got a front row seat to the curriculum being taught to their children. Now that many are aware of this situation, they believe that if they just get rid of what they see in certain classes, such as critical race theory, that the schools will be okay. Nothing could be further from the truth. I used to visit many schools back in the 1960s, and what I saw then convinced me that the schools were hopeless in many cities. Gradually, what I saw then crept into the more rural areas and conservative states. Within many of the high schools I visited, it was not unusual to see portraits of communist leaders and flags displayed in classrooms and study halls. They even had tables set up with Marxist youth organizations' literature available for the students. Since this time, it has only gotten worse. For instance, nearly 500 high schools around the country have Chinese Communist Confucius Institutes in them, run by the Chinese. You generally only hear about the institutes inundating the colleges. Many of these Confucius Institutes at colleges have ostensibly been shut down, but in reality, they've only changed their name to something else. Parents are losing their First Amendment rights in opposition to what is happening in our schools, even arrested at school board meetings for being opposed to what is being taught. It is a very fundamental reality. Government cannot do anything better than free enterprise. Yet so many people believe that government-operated schools can do a better job of teaching students than private education. The government is not in the business of letting the citizens dictate what should be done any longer, and this will continue until changes are made in the voting habits of the people. Two major teachers' unions are essentially socialist fronts, united under Education Internationale, founded by a Socialist Party leader and joined at the hip to the United Nations, teaching what the UN wants taught. I challenge you to search the websites of any of the state or federal government education departments and research what they advocate to be taught. It will really open up your eyes. Their programs sound innocent enough until you look further into things. For instance, their Green Strides program is essentially an environmental program, right from the United Nations. It basically advocates curricula that will lead to total government control over all aspects of human life. Let me ask you a couple of questions to hopefully open your eyes to what even you did not receive as an education when you went to school. We stand and pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands. Yet, did they teach you our country is a democracy or a republic? Did they teach you the difference? Our country is supposed to be a republic. 2. Did they teach you that over 10,000 people in a mob searched the streets of Philadelphia looking for George Washington to harm him in an attempt to effect a revolution against the Washington administration, and who was behind this riot? I'm sure many don't know this, but the impetus came from revolutionary France in an attempt to make the United States a satellite of the French Revolution and its subsequent terror campaign to include the guillotine. If this would have been taught, many would have opened up their eyes to the real danger facing our country from the onset. This demonstrates that at least in your lifetime, American education has been deficient. The real history of the United States has been denied to the American student. There is no way that the schools as they are constituted today can educate the students to understand Americanism and help save our republic. You have to look elsewhere to educate your children. Homeschool and private schools are the solution. By the way, did you know that the majority of the men who signed the Declaration of Independence were homeschooled? Look at how many presidents were also homeschooled. Perhaps the most famous was Abraham Lincoln. His successor, Andrew Johnson, was taught by his wife to read and do arithmetic. The best homeschooling program today is at Freedom Project Academy, an adjunct of the John Birch Society. Enrollment is open at this time, but will close soon since the demand for classes is high, and they are filling up quickly. The program is divided into two types of school. One is online with live classes and teacher, with the classes limited to around 25. Obviously, there are some multiple classes of the same grade and instruction. The student needs to be in front of their computer at a precise time to log in, and this is regulated on Central Time. For those who live around the globe and the time factor is too great a burden, like getting up at 2 in the morning, a program of Anytime Academy is available that has much of the same support system the regular classes have, but without a live teacher, and can be done at the students' and parents' time. The education is not loosey-goosey. It is solid and accredited. Most of our graduates go on to college. The prospective students are tested to make sure they belong in the class level that the school from which they come from is correct. If not, it is possible for our tutoring service to bring them up to the level necessary. It is worth exploring. Simply log on to fpeusa.org and explore the possibilities. Otherwise, education that includes critical race theory is awaiting your children when they return to the government schools this fall, along with other socialist and perverted programs. I homeschooled my children when it was illegal. They homeschooled their children, and in turn they homeschooled my great-grandchildren. Like early Americans, they do not fit the mold and can think independently. Isn't it worth your children's well-being to take a look at Freedom Project Academy?